with the human beings, if you want my honest opinion, and becomes very, very aware of the inanimate from the moment that you open your eyes. The great philosopher Heidegger said this. In German, the word for thinking, danken, right, is exactly the same as dankan, which is to thank you, gratitude. Meaning that every thought you think should be an act of gratitude. Is it? So the true human being, from the moment he opens his eyes, is in gratitude for his life space, for his beingness. You see? It's the same word even. Amazing.
Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate all the work you've done. For myself, I think the key to my opening is meditation. Is that, God, I don't even know. That's just what it feels to me. Is that something that everyone should practice?
No, I don't want to hear about everyone. All I want to hear is that you know. Now, see, the key, in that sentence, the key one was yours. You said, my. That's it. Leave it right there. Anybody else, it's contamination. In fact, there's a whole theory of prayer. We don't have time to get into it now. That ties into all of this. There's a whole mystical tradition in the meanness of it all. We're always being displaced from the center of selfhood. Go ahead.
On the George Norrie Coast to Coast AM show in May of 2005, you predicted that Bush wasn't going to complete his second term and that Hillary Clinton would be president in 2008 to bring in the new age.
Right.
Do you still support that?
Well, I offered that as a theory. As a synthesist, as somebody who's looking at all the different things, that theory has actually been out there before I concocted it. It was in the research community, and I think it has a lot of importance because, you see, ritual death and sacrifice is a very key part of all of this. And I do, in fact, I even wrote an open letter to Jeff Rentz recently. You see, the horrors that have been perpetrated in 9/11 and the attack have been almost by design. It's almost like there's been a flagrant avoidance of international law to the point where it's almost like they're waiting for a certain kind of reaction from us. It's almost like they want us to turn on Bush so that he can be sacrificed. Sacrifice doesn't mean physical death, but it will be, for a man like him, it would be political death. Because then what would happen, there would be a vote of no confidence in government. For the first time in American history. This has happened a lot in Europe. But here it would be a vote of no confidence. Because, what would happen if another atrocity was to happen? Or even that we, as a research community, start to really find out, and the world starts to get it, that this Bush is totally complicit, and it was an inside job. My goodness, if you watch half the videos we have produced and the DVDs, it's a no-brainer. So what happens if that was really meant to happen? What happens if the people who are in charge of this debacle meant that to happen? So that then we don't vote in, the right person, or we vote in a crony like this maniac Hillary, you see? That can happen. Or it could even go further than that, where there's no government. And suddenly we have FEMA, martial law, or some sort of chaotic situation. These are theories we need to look at. Very important to look at the idea of ritual sacrifice and death, ordo out of chaos, which brings in the New World Order. And it's not that they have one, methodology of doing it. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4. They've got 10 backup plans. If one doesn't work, you see, they move to another. If one gets exposed by the research community, they move to another. You can't just fixate on one thing and go, they're going to do this. But believe me, they are sacrificing. You can forget about sacrificing Bush. They're sacrificing the whole world. They're massacring and murdering children. Enough sacrifices going on in the world. You see? As long as they're on track to the goal of what we've been talking about, the abolition of a man's sovereignty, the removal of his emotional complex, with his own help, because he's sick of his own emotions, the move towards the New World Order, as long as they're on track to those things, they don't really mind, this and that. As long as they stay on the path. And if something goes awry, then they change the wheel, or they change strategy, or they duck and dive. But now they realize that they're being watched by a lot of different agencies. So they're very cunning. And I'm thinking then, if you know you're being watched that much, then why would you go to the exaggerated, the gratuitous length of letting everybody know really, who's got a brain, that this stuff was orchestrated? I'm concerned about that, that's all.
One last question. Can you give us contact info for people on this?
Yeah, anyone, just go to michaeltsarion.com. And that's a navigation page to the rest of my website material. It's Tsarion is spelled with Tsarion. michaeltsarion.com, and all the other information, all the websites, information, DVDs. If you want the DVDs and merchandise, then it's Origins.